Alright, some stuff went down on Raw this past Monday and we need answers. So welcome to another surprise episode of Reliving The War Smackdown. It's the 2nd of November 2000, we're in Rochester, New York, and on the last episode of Raw, Rikishi said The Rock made him run over Stone Cold at Survivor Series, and Rock was in on the plan all along. So we're going to get to the bottom of this once and for all, hopefully. Also, I wanted to cover this particular episode because, in a way, it'll tie in with the very last Reliving the War video that goes on the channel, that being WrestleMania 17. You'll know what I mean by the end of today's video, so let's get started. We open up Raw this week with The Rock addressing his cousin's claims. Did The Rock really order Rikishi to run down Stone Cold? Well, Rock wants to talk about Stone Cold first of all. The Great One says he and Austin aren't friends and they'll probably never be friends. But Rock considers Austin a pretty sharp guy, and Rock would hope that Stone Cold would see through Rikishi's lies. Seems like that's not the case. Rock tried calling Stone Cold over the week, he offered him out for a beer, he offered him out for dinner. Austin was even invited over for a 2-player showdown of Crash Team Racing, but Stone Cold ghosted the people's champ. Rock knows Austin's in the building, so Stone Cold's getting called out right now, and Rock wants to explain himself right to Austin's face. Stone Cold doesn't appear, so The Rock demands Austin shows up and Rocky gets his wish. The Rattlesnake marches down to the ring, and boy, there's quite an atmosphere when Austin and Rock stand inside the ring. The crowd are chanting Rocky's name, they're chanting Austin's name. Both men are insanely popular right now, and fans seem split right down the middle. Rock says he had nothing to do with what happened at Survivor Series. Why Rikishi would imply as much, Rock has absolutely no idea. Maybe it's because Rock didn't have Rikishi's back in the Raw cage match, but whatever the case, the bottom line is, The Rock didn't have anything to do with Stone Cold getting run over. Austin says he didn't come out because Rock told him to. No one tells Stone Cold what to do. Austin lives by the words "don't trust anybody," and that's why he didn't come over for a game of Crash Team Racing. The Rock could be lying. It could have been Rock who hit him last week on Smackdown before Rikishi beat Stone Cold down inside the ring. So the only person Austin trusts right now is himself. Here comes Rikishi with his Bad Man theme music and his fat wear jacket. I look at Rikishi here and I imagine he smells like a brand new leather sofa. Keish again says it was The Rock who gave him the order. Rock phoned the big man up. He asked for a pretty big favour. He said, "I need you to take out Stone Cold Steve Austin. The WWF isn't big enough for the both of us. And also bring over another controller because mine's fucked and I want to play Crash Team Racing tonight." Rikishi says it was The Rock who hit Austin with a wrench on Smackdown last week. Rock said he'd have his cousin's back. Rock said he'd watch out for Rikishi on Raw during the cage match, and Rock didn't show up when the big man needed him. The reason why Rocky didn't help Rikishi? Maybe it's because Rikishi's now becoming a big star just like Steve Austin, and Rock ends up saying that this story stinks just as much as Rikishi's fat bunghole. Rock knows Austin doesn't trust him, but the Great One's done everything face to face. He threw Stone Cold off a bridge one time. He went face to face with Austin at WrestleMania. Rock has no reason to hide behind anyone, and that's when Kurt Angle shows up. Rock faces Angle for the WWF title later tonight, by the way. Angle doesn't really care about the Survivor Series incident. Instead, he wants tonight's WWF title match cancelled because Stephanie McMahon's still sick and she can't stand in Kurt's corner tonight. Not only that, but if what Rikishi says is true, then Angle's not only fearing for his title, he's fearing for his life. I didn't know CM Punk was backstage tonight. Rock invites both Rikishi and Angle down to the ring. Rikishi says he and Kurt don't trust Rock just like Austin doesn't trust Rock. And after the heels leave, Steve Austin decides to hit The Rock with a Stone Cold Stunner. My. What a tangled web of deceit and lies we are currently in, ladies and gents. Looks like Lieutenant Commissioner Deborah is in control of Smackdown tonight, and if Deborah is responsible for booking matches, then she clearly has it in for young Crash Holly. Holly's taking on both Test and Albert next in a hardcore match, and maybe Crash can get the APA's office back if he beats these two tonight on Smackdown. TNA mess Crash around in the ring, but I'd be careful if I were these two, because Sensei Blackman's watching backstage and Sensei always stands up for the little guys. There's also rumours going around that Albert's actually a robot monster sent from the future to destroy all of mankind, but you didn't hear that from me. I laughed out loud when Tazz decided he wasn't going to catch Elroy and young Crash hit the mat pretty hard, but Crash got his revenge by hiding a trash can lid behind his back before launching an attack. Silly TNA. We head to the backstage area where Crash gets taught a lesson. Steve Blackman watches the match on a screen even though the competitors are right beside him, but clearly he's also meditating here and he's like zoned in and I've no fucking idea why he's doing this actually. We get some XFL product placement next because this particular endeavour needs all the help it can get. And seeing as young Crash has found himself in a bit of a pickle, Sensei Blackman rushes over to save the day. Thank you, Steve. Kendo stick shots get dished out and Steve ensures Crash Holly wins this match. And that's because he's a great guy and we should all strive to be just like Steve Blackman. Deborah's a female in power and Ivory thinks the Lieutenant Commissioner now has a great opportunity to clean up the WWF. Deborah can give Ivory a shot at Lita's Women's Championship, and while she's at it, Deborah could also clean up her own image and put those big bazongas away. Trish Stratus joins the party, Jackie shows up too. Deborah tells these women to all chill out because they'll be competing in a fatal 4-way match for the women's title and there's going to be no outside interference. No interference from TNA, the Hardys or the Right to Censor. Jackie, unfortunately, has no friends. Speaking of the Right to Censor, Steven Richards is in the ring delivering one of his usual promos. He says the Right to Censor is joining up with politicians to ensure there's no more lewd or disgusting content put forth in the WWF. With both Republicans and Democrats backing the Right to Censor, Steven's mission will expand to Hollywood. It'll expand all across America, and censorship will reign supreme. Looks like The Undertaker enjoys lewd content. He loves seeing massive bops in his TV shows because he's coming to the ring right now to confront Steven Richards. He's wearing a shirt that says Crime Inc. on it, and that's probably not a shirt you'd want to wear at your court hearing. Richards wants Undertaker to join the Right to Censor. He could be called the Censor, the Censor Taker? Censor, I don't know, but he gives Stevie a last ride after telling Mr. Richards that the Right to Censor sucks. Undertaker then drives off while trying to run down other members of the RTC. Ridiculous. Adam Sandler was at Smackdown earlier and he met all the WWF superstars. There was only one person Adam really wanted to meet though, and that was Earl Hebner. Sandler's a big Earl mark and he wanted to take Hebner out for a few beers, but just one problem. Adam's broke as a joke. Earl says it's okay, the senior official will pay for all of Adam's drinks. So the two left so Adam could drink his beers at a medium pace and Smackdown continues on. Adam put on that same voice he uses in every one of his movies, by the way. Edge and Christian say today totally reeks of awesomeness because the person running Smackdown tonight is not Mick Foley. Deborah is the anti-Foley, and seeing as she's in the mood for handing out title shots, maybe Deborah should get rid of that sucktacular rule Mick Foley came up with, and Deborah should give E&C a tag team title match against the Hardy Boys. Like He-Man, Deborah has the power. Deborah is indeed not Mick Foley, but Deborah says she's not stupid either and she's not going to grant Edge and Christian a title opportunity. Good try though, boys. Good try. The women's fatal 4-way match took place next, and this one is first fall to a finish. Competitors also have to tag in and out, and so the ladies had to try to steal their tags whenever the opportunity arises. Highlights included Trish's Bulldog to Lita, Ivory's unique wrist lock into a Northern Light suplex, and Lita performing a twist of fate on the Right to Censor's newest recruit. As expected, the match broke down with all 4 women in the ring, and to prove a point, Lita took her top off before delivering a moonsault to Ivory. The effectiveness of Lita's moonsault almost doubles when she gets her melons out. While the referee was distracted, Edge and Christian went after Lita. The women's champ gets taken out with a sidewalk slam and reverse DDT combo. This allows Ivory to pin Lita, and that means Ivory is the new WWF Women's Champion. Will this bring censorship to the women's division now that the RTC hold the championship belt? Yeah, probably not. Next up, we've got Chris Jericho versus Rikishi, and Rikishi says he's ready for Y2J. There's nothing he's not ready for. He bangs on about The Rock giving him the order to run down Stone Cold. Rikishi doesn't blame Austin for giving Rock a stunner, but Rikishi gives Austin a fair warning. Rock did it once, and he'll do it again. I'd be very surprised if Jericho pinned or submitted Rikishi in this match, and I'm also very surprised that someone in the crowd compared Jericho's band Fozzy to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Jericho rushes into the ring where he takes a few right hands. Rikishi kicks the Ayatollah while Jericho's on the mat. And we go outside where Chris gets launched into the ring steps. Brilliant start, Y2J. More punches both outside and inside the ring follows, but Jericho stops a corner ass attack by getting his feet up. Chris then performs a spinning wheel kick before we head outside again. Rikishi takes a few ring post bumps as the two travel along the ringside area. Back in the ring, Jericho tries to chop the big man down, but he finds himself in a sleeper hold which slows the match down momentarily. Chris breaks free as someone holds a fuzzy socks sign, which could be interpreted as fuzzy sucks. At least that's what I read, first of all. The Big Oos gets schoolboyed from the corner, and Chris then tries to lock in the walls of Jericho. There's a long struggle here, and Chris unfortunately can't get the job done, but he does manage to plant Rikishi with a facebuster. A forearm shot follows, and Chris's signature springboard dropkick sends Big Quiche to the outside. Kane's pyro ignites the arena and Jericho's in a lot of trouble. Remember, Jericho spilled a cup of coffee all over Kane while he was trying to sell fuzzy CDs to the unsuspecting public. Commissioner Foley stopped Kane from attending Raw last week, but Mick isn't here on SmackDown tonight. Kane sets his sights on Jericho. Chris grabs a chair for protection. The Big Red Machine takes a shot right to the head, but it has no effect. So Jericho gets planted with a chokeslam and our match gets thrown out. Kane leaves the ring, Rikishi picks up the pieces, and Y2J gets squished like a bug before SmackDown takes a commercial break. While off the air, Kevin Kelly wanted to know why Kane would be so upset over a cup of coffee, and Kane says this isn't about coffee. So, what is it about? Maybe Kane just doesn't like fuzzy, I'm not sure. Billy Gunn and Chyna, better known as Team Friendzone, are taking on Venis and Eddie Guerrero next. Billy Gunn came out to his usual entrance music and Venis reminded Billy that he can no longer call himself Mr. Ass. That means he can't use his Ass Man theme song anymore, and this is an absolute crime against humanity, folks. Top 3 entrance songs of all time. The commentators decide they're now going to refer to Billy as Billy G, which is weird, seeing as the RTC didn't censor the word gun, but anywho. Hip Hop Billy G gets double teamed at the opening bell while Tim White's distracted by Chyna. Within no time at all, Billy's turned it around and he gives Chyna an assist when she performs her handspring back elbow. Billy then performs a cartwheel elbow, which didn't look half as good, but this gets followed with a double bulldog to Venis and a double hip toss to Eddie. Eddie and Val refocus, they get Chyna stuck in their corner while the crowd chant Eddie sucks. Billy makes a few attempts to save his new best friend and this of course backfires. But Chyna gets it together and she escapes disaster by cheating. She delivers a low blow, which isn't a very babyface thing to do. Billy G and Eddie G get tagged in. Billy goes to work and he delivers a jackhammer to Eddie before sending Venis to the outside. In comes Chyna again for a double team back suplex and neckbreaker, and even though Eddie dodges a press slam, he ends up getting pinned after Chyna delivers her sleeper slam. Chyna and Mr. Rear End defeat Eddie Guerrero and Val Venis on SmackDown. Let's move on. Steve Austin's putting in a pizza order. He looks like a ham and pineapple man to me, but he doesn't get a chance to finish his conversation. Some absolute gabshite tried to tie a flight case to the ceiling for an art project or something, and it almost falls on Stone Cold's head. The commentators think this was a setup and it could have been The Rock trying to get revenge, but the moral of the story is simple: don't tie flight cases to the ceiling. Detective Jonathan Coachman tries to find The Rock and get some answers, but The Rock's not in his dressing room. This is, apparently, irrefutable evidence that The Rock was behind this failed attack, but come on, he could have been taking a shit or something. Al Snow still wants Jerry Lawler to be his tag team partner. He even got the King his very own customized toilet seat, which was just used by The Rock 2 minutes ago. Snow wants Lawler to team up for a match against Tazz and Raven, but tonight Snow faces Tazz all alone while Raven joins the commentary team. As Snow pummels Tazz in the corner, Raven says, "What about me? What about Raven?" Cole explains that Raven's been doing a little commentary on Sunday Night Heat as Tazz takes a kick to the face followed by a snow bomb. Lawler wonders why Raven indulges in so much self-pity, but Raven doesn't want to answer. Instead, he wants to interfere in this match, but the King ensures this doesn't happen. The referee ends up getting distracted. Snow grabs head, but he misses his target. Raven tries holding Al in place, but Tazz accidentally hits him, and this allows Al Snow to win via pinfall. After the bell, Raven and Tazz attack Al, and Michael Cole wants to know what Jerry Lawler's gonna do about it. The King decides to get in the ring and he helps Al out by swinging his newly acquired toilet seat. The heels get out of the ring, and it looks like Jerry has agreed to join forces with Al Snow. Triple H says his goal on Raw this past week wasn't to pin Kurt Angle, his goal was to beat Angle up while Stephanie was out of the picture. The burial we witnessed on Raw was nothing more than Triple H wanting to prove he's still the man, and that's all there is to it. Lillian Garcia wonders how this beatdown's affected Hunter's relationship with his lovely wife. Triple H says it's none of Lillian's business. And speaking of business, Triple H has some unfinished business with Chris Benoit, and so the game faces the Crippler in our semi-main event. These two had a great match at No Mercy. I don't expect this TV match to compare to their pay-per-view showdown at all, but maybe I'll get surprised. The two make their entrances, they exchange blows at the opening bell, Chris gets put down with a back elbow and the two then go for their finishing moves. Neither man can end the match early and instead they end up scrapping all the way to the outside. Benoit takes a drop toe hold on the ring steps, he gets dropped on the barrier, the game brings Chris back in with a suplex and he follows this with a knee drop. Mate, I've seen enough of Triple H dominating people after that fiasco on Raw, I don't need to see it again so soon. You may think my worries were somewhat alleviated when Benoit performed a back suplex, but this is seriously the only thing of note Benoit does during this match. I'm not joking either, folks. Hunter gets launched into the corner and Benoit tries to apply the crossface during the rebound. The game escapes and it's now Benoit going into the corner. Hunter then tries a pedigree, Benoit avoids it, and we get a referee bump when Triple H kicks Benoit away. Hunter performs the facebreaker knee smash and he goes for the pedigree one more time. Dean Malenko then shows up to help out his old Radical teammate, but he has no luck at all. Perry Saturn makes an appearance and he too gets taken care of rather easily, but then Eddie Guerrero, the fourth and final Radical, takes Triple H out with his IC belt. This allows Benoit to score a pinfall win over the game, and it only took 4 people to achieve this victory. I mean, what are we doing here, folks? The reformed Radicals lay a beating into Triple H after the bell, and while they celebrate, Hunter decides to grab a chair. He's able to hit Saturn right on the head before the faction get out of the ring. So even after taking a loss and after getting beat down after the bell, it's Triple H's music that plays when all's said and done. Again, for those that are new here, I'm a Triple H fan and I've gone to bat for this dude when I really shouldn't have. This kind of stuff though, along with the Triple H vs Kurt Angle match on Raw this past week, it's very, very difficult to defend. Kevin Kelly wants to know if Rock had anything to do with that failed attack on Steve Austin earlier on, and Kelly wants to know where Rock was when Austin almost got his head caved in. Rock wonders if Kevin Kelly's his mother, and yeah, that would be a bit weird. The only thing that matters to Rock right now is winning back his WWF title when he faces Kurt Angle in our main event, and Kevin should make a real effort to keep his nose out of Rock's business. Thing is, Rock didn't say he did or didn't try to drop a flag case on Austin's bald head, so I've got my suspicions, ladies and gents. I'm keeping my eye on this fucking guy. It's now time for our SmackDown main event, Kurt Angle defending his WWF Championship against The Rock. Obviously, fans in Rochester want to see Rock win the belt once again, but it's not going to be easy. Kurt's an Olympic gold medalist after all, don't you know? Kurt's too busy jaw-jacking the audience, so Rock forces him into the ring. The champ takes a spit punch in the corner, but Rock forgot who he was messing with. Angle fires back with a German suplex. He uses the middle rope while applying a chokehold. Rock takes a few punches to the mouth, and Kurt puts the challenger down with a power slam. We have a few more strikes in the ring before we go to Rock's favourite place in the entire world, the announce desk. It's here where Rock turns it around very briefly, but he doesn't keep his advantage for too long. Angle wipes Rocky out with a clothesline, and when we get back in the ring, Angle applies a chin lock. Man, I'm so glad I checked this episode of SmackDown out. Rock gets up, but he goes right back down again after a double clothesline. Perfect time for someone to interfere, but no. They get up again, Angle gets floored multiple times when Rock throws right hands. Kurt then takes a DDT, but he kicks out at 2, and even though Kurt telegraphs a back body drop, he does manage to pull off a belly to belly. Classic time wasting tactic next from Kurt Angle. He decides he's had enough and he grabs his WWF belt before heading back up the ramp. This naturally leads to Rock chasing the champ and Kurt gets wiped out, and the match resumes in the ring as if nothing happened at all. Rock brings it with his belly to belly throw, which only gets a 2. Rock also delivers a Samoan drop, which again doesn't get the job done. Kurt looks to end it with an Olympic slam, but he takes too long making the cover. This means Rock's able to kick out and our match continues on. Angle gets thrown out of the ring and it looks like the champ might be injured. He begs for Hebner to stop his count because he's messed up his ankle. And so the match comes to a halt for a brief moment while officials check out Angle. Not EMTs, not doctors, officials. Kurt says the match is over, Rock has other ideas. The champ gets put back in the ring where he takes a dragon screw and Rock then applies his shit shooter. While the move's locked in, Rikishi makes an appearance. Rock's forced to break the move in order to take Rikishi out. He goes back to Angle and he performs a spine buster, but before Rock can perform the people's elbow, Rikishi attacks him and the match gets thrown out. A shame too, because this was pretty good. Angle's still the champion. He and Rikishi join forces to beat down The Rock. Stone Cold Steve Austin shows up and we aren't sure who he's gonna go for, but in the end he helps Rocky out. Rikishi gets punched so hard that he falls out of the ring. Kurt Angle gets dropped with a Stone Cold Stunner. We have harmony once again in the WWF between the company's two top babyfaces. And that's what I would be saying if Rock didn't take Austin out with a rock bottom before SmackDown goes off the air. Rock's got a mean look on his face. Was the Great One getting payback for the stunner earlier on? Or is he angry that his planned attack on Austin failed earlier in the show? Tune in to Reliving the War on Thursday to find out. A good, fun episode of SmackDown that still serves its purpose for me. A great palate cleanser after weeks of Raw and weeks of Nitro. I say it over and over again, but it really is true. The simplicity of SmackDown shows make them really fun to sit through, and I like how the WWF use SmackDown during this era. You don't necessarily need to watch it if you're watching Raw every week, but you'll get a more full experience if you do decide to watch it. Like, you don't feel it's totally necessary, but you're always glad you sat through it. Gonna sound like old man yelling at a cloud here, but nowadays there's just way too much wrestling on TV, and it does feel like you gotta set aside time to get through everything. Sometimes this just isn't a very rewarding experience, but back in the Attitude Era days, the WWF had it right when it comes to the amount of TV they produced. Raw's your main show, SmackDown's the complimentary DLC, and Sunday Night Heat's there if you really can't get enough wrestling in your life. But that's another Reliving the War Smackdown in the bag, and I hope you enjoyed this show as much as I did. See you all on Thursday, soldiers, and please take care.